It was interesting to compare and contrast Elliot's experience in the military with his father's experience in the military. We get to see the start of Elliot's journey, which is him at his most childish. This is shown by his naivete in the scene where he talks to himself in the mirror, pretending to be a decorated war hero. He assumes that success will surely come to him. There was an ounce of cynicism seen in this scene that is usually characteristic of older people. His father, on the other hand, falls in love with his mother, who is a nurse. He grimaces in pain after a war wound. He doesn't show the same excitement for war that his son did in the first scene. For question 2, the values that are being represented in this dramatic world are tradition, family values, and in the tradition in the form of family and masculinity. Masculinity is represented by Elliot's father and grandfather, who never talk about their pain from the war. It is supposed to be a very masculine thing to mask your emotions and to never let anyone see your pain. As a man, our society and many other societies expect men to be strong and to never show weakness. In the last scene, Elliot finally gets to read his father's letters because his father would refuse to talk about his war stories. The fact that his father would refuse to talk about his war stories is an example of how the men in this play who have truly matured don't talk about their feelings. Another example of masculinity comes from Elliot himself, because when he's injured, he stays calm and strong, thinking logically about how to save himself from injury. Being calm and strong in a crisis situation is definitely a symbol of the traditional ideal of masculinity. Tradition is exemplified in this dramatic world by the fact that Elliot is the third generation of his family to enlist in the military and go to war. Elliot specifically said that he enlisted in the Marines after high school because his grandpop and pop were in the military. This sense of familial tradition is what keeps him going. Another example of tradition comes from the fact that Jenny learned to garden from her father. This is an art that he loved and passed on to his daughter. From both sides of Elliot's family, tradition and the form of family are very important. A term I had difficulty understanding was rock ape. After some research, I have understood that rock ape represents the Vietnamese who threw rocks at American soldiers. Although this play wasn't very derogatory to the Vietnamese, this term hints at the racism that was a part of the American soldiers. Some of the American soldiers saw the Vietnamese as subhuman, similar to an ape. For question 4, this play challenges the American belief that war is all guts and glory and filled with purple hearts. Both Elliot and his father sustained severe injuries from fighting for the American military. This pain is often concealed by history books, but is revealed by this piece of theater. It does reaffirm the notion that many Americans who come from military families go on to join the military, as evidenced by 3 generations of Elliot's family being in the military. After all, when asked by the announcer about why he enlisted in the military, Elliot says, "I was like, Dad was a Marine. I wanted to be a Marine. I really did it for him." This belief is definitely a part of the mindset of many young adults who come from military families. A fugue is a composition in which a short melody or phrase is introduced by one part and successfully taken up by others and developed by interweaving the parts. This relates to play because both good and bad ruined the character's life because of war. Although his father got injured during the war, he also found love. This interweaving of love and pain represents a fugue. The playwright seems to be saying that war is complicated, as it is not black and white, as it isn't just good or bad. As for my last 2 questions, my first question is, what do you think happened to Elliot when he leaves the airport and goes to the military? My second question is, what do you think is the main lesson to be learned from this story?